Hi guys, my name is David Martinez,
I'm Luis Mendoza,
and today we're going to show you guys how you guys can design your dreams.
and to do this, we're going to show you through an open source software called FreeCAD.
So in terms of the table of contents, today we will be providing a brief introduction. We also talk about 3D parametrics, functionality of FreeCAD and how we have implemented it, some applications, and we will conclude.
Okay, to start off, my partner David here will give a short anecdote.
So the other day, I was playing soccer with my brother, an aerospace engineer at UC Irvine, and it was a relaxing afternoon, right, until my mother says the pozole is out. So what was once a relaxing soccer game quickly became a competitive championship game. And so we're going back and forth, and we're playing with a goal, right, that was made up of fishnets and plastic tubes. And at the last minute, he hits me with a strikeful force towards the right post of my goal-scoring goal, right? So my goal goes down, and I am sad. I do not know what I will do for the rest of my Saturday evening. So my goal turns into nothing but debris, and I ask him, what are we going to do? He came up with a solution: 3D parametrics. 3D parametrics is the use of mathematical equations to create and manipulate three-dimensional shapes. And you do this by defining parameters and which basically shape the model. So you use models in order to test different relational objects. And 3D parametrics basically uses what we're going to talk about, x, y, and xz coordinates.
Okay, so in most basic math classes or any lessons, you might have been introduced to the XY coordinate system. So obviously you have your x-axis and your y-axis. But when it comes to 3D, does anybody know what's wrong with this? You. Yeah, you need depth. This is 2D, right? So obviously you can't create anything 3D with this, which is why the XYZ coordinate system is important. So what this does, of course, you have your XY plane, which I just discussed, but now you have the Z plane. So you have your XZ plane and your YZ plane. And what this does, now you have that depth that you want in order to create an object, correct? So, just to show you a little example, I don't know if you can see too well, but we have the axis that now has the z-axis. And if you were to create lines on this, then obviously you would be able to create a 3D model.
And so what FreeCAD does is it uses C++ programming language along with open cascade technology in order to actually use the x, y, and z coordinates, right? And it is able to define relationships between different objects using things that we call constraints. Constraints are basically mathematical rules that relate one object to another and allow a computer software to know how different objects are related, and thus it's able to provide you a certain model.
Okay, so now for functionality, I'm going to show you a live tutorial. Okay, so this is what you first see when you open FreeCAD. If you'd like, you could click through the examples and see, like, obviously a creation. But for us, we're going to create something new. Okay, one thing that I do want to discuss, click right there. You see you have this. You're probably wondering what this is. And what these are just workbenches, which are implemented within the software. And so what these workbenches do, it depends on what you want to design. And it gives you like a toolbar or like a tool set, which you can use to create your model. When it comes to modeling, you will most likely be working with part design and Sketcher. But obviously, it depends what you want to do. So for example, if you're an architect and you want to create a building, you would most likely be using Arch and Draft. But for this, we'll use part design. So as you can see, a new tool set just appeared. So let's say you move into a house, you're in your bathroom, and you're like, oh, I'm missing something in here, a trash can. So today, we're going to model a trash can. So can anybody describe features of a trash can? You in the back. A cylinder? Could be.
It could be a cylinder. We can also go for
a rectangular prism.
Prism.
That might be better. Okay. Anything else?
So what are some features you might see on a trash can?
Holds trash, right? So meaning like it's hollow, like has depth. Okay. So for the sake of this explanation, we'll go with a rectangular prism. So obviously, we're going to need like a square, right? So when you first create something, you want to create your body and create a sketch. So what Create Sketch does, instead of going straight to 3D, you're just going to have a simple sketch. So you could choose whichever plane you want, but for this, we'll choose the XZ plane. So of course, I'm gonna need a square, right? I could automatically just use create square, but for the explanation, we're gonna go line by line. So, of course, square, 4 lines. I know you're wondering, what is this? This is not a square, right? So someone describe a square to me. You. For equal, okay,
Perfect,
nice.
thank you.
Okay, so what we're gonna do here is connect the vertices. So to do this, we're gonna use as he stated constraints, which are the rules. And for this one, constraint coincident, what it does is just bring 2 points together. So we'll click that and start connecting our vertices.
And so as you guys notice, as we're connecting these lines, there's something wrong with these lines. What are they missing?
They're not straight, right? It's not a square yet. Okay, so using our constraints, we're gonna make our line straight. So we're gonna use constraint vertically. So what this does, simply click a line, and now they're vertical. Obviously, we need to do that horizontally as well. So we'll click horizontal, and now we have a perfect square. But with this model, we're still missing 2 things. We're missing dimension and position. So we'll start with dimension. So back again in our constraints bar. Okay, we're going to set the horizontal distance. Someone give me a 50 millimeters. In this, we're working in millimeters. That's the standard unit of the software, but you can't change it depending on what you want to use. So we'll go 50, a 50 by 50 square. Okay, now we have our dimension, but we're still missing something, our position, correct? So when designing, it is recommended to center something about the origin. So that's what we would do using the same constraints. So we're gonna click our origin, we'll click one of our points, and we'll go, someone give me, throw out a number. 25.
Perfect.
Okay, now we constrain it vertically. So I can move it side to side, but I cannot move it vertically. So now, constrain it horizontally.
You can also notice your degrees of freedom on this combo view, which basically tells you the constraints that are left for you to make until the sketch is fully constrained, and you can actually start to model it. So now that the sketch is green, that is when you notice that the sketch is fully constrained, which means that you can actually start to extrude or basically provide other dimensions.
Okay, so now that we're done with this, it is fully constrained. We'll close that for now. And you see we have this sketch that we just created, which is a perfect square. And since we're trying to create a trash can, we still need to bring out the depth, make it 3D, correct? So what we're gonna do, we have our sketch, and we're going to select pad. See that? It says pad. Basically, what this does is extrude your sketch, meaning makes it 3D. So now we have a 3D object. But once again, we're making a trash can, so what is wrong with this?
What do we need?
You in the back?
Exactly.
Yes, perfect.
So can anyone provide a height or length?
150? It's kind of long. We'll go 100 just to be safe. We'll go 100. Okay?
So now we're getting closer to that rectangular prism type shape. So that's great. So what else would we need to store trash within a trash can? Back there again.
A hole in the middle.
Thank you so much.
Okay, so to do that, we're going to want to create another sketch. So when modeling, you can choose any surface that you want to model on. So we'll just do this one. Why not? Choose that, create a new sketch.
And as he's modeling on a face of an object, which is what we consider a nested element, he is basically modeling within an object of another object. In this example, he's basically using the face of the rectangular prism we just used. So therefore, the face that he is now creating is now known as a nested element.
Okay, so for our hole, we'll do a circle since I already covered like a rectangle shape. So we'll create a circle. Obviously, we want it about the origin. So I'm going to click the origin. Okay, so I drew our circle, but what's it still missing? A width, perfect. The dimensions, correct. Okay, so we'll click our circle, and we're going to constrain it using constrain arc or circle. So we'll click that. Someone throw out a number. 45, perfect. Okay, so as you see, our circle turned green, meaning it is constrained. So we'll update that. Close it. Okay, so we have our circle, but what's still missing? The depth, right? So we're going to click our sketch that we just made, which is our second sketch, and what we want to do is press pocket. And what this does, I don't know if you can see, but it turned our sketch and pushed it within the previous sketch. But still, the hole's not big enough, so someone throw out a number. 21? We could do that, but it's probably not deep enough, so try a little bit bigger. 50? Let's try 90.
That's not that much trash. We need
try 90.
We need to find a lot, put a lot of trash in there, so we might need a bigger number. So 90 is perfect.
So as you see, we made a 90. Now our hole is deep. Let me zoom out a little. If you look at this, you could say it's a trash can, right? So everyone clap it up. We just created a trash can.
Yeah, thank you, guys. So back to our presentation. How can we use FreeCAD? So we're just going to go over some application. So product design is a good way to use FreeCAD. When working in product design or engineering, you can create models, right? And as we said, FreeCAD allows you to use relational objects, which allows you to basically relate one object to another and therefore create models. And that is a good way to express product design.
So for example, this is a wheel that I created using FreeCAD. Let me pull it up right here, actually. So I know you're probably thinking I had to draw this whole wheel piece by piece, but that is not the case. So I'm going to explain a little. When I first started this, I simply created one sketch with the base plate, which is the mounting point on the wheel. And after that, I simply had to make one of these spokes. There's 6 spokes. I only made one of them. But using the part design toolset, I was able to select polar pattern. I don't know if you could read it, but over there it says polar pattern. And what that did, I was able to basically like copy one sketch and like create it multiple times. So that's what I did for that. And back to this. This was simply one of the sketches. I think this project had a total of like 5 or 6 sketches. But one of these alone, this one alone, when I was creating the side profile of this wheel, let me zoom in a little. I don't know if you can see, but it has like the grooves that a real wheel would have. And so that alone had 119 constraints for simply one sketch. So obviously this is just an example that like, if you're working on more complex things, then obviously it'll be a lot more difficult. And if you want to work on something a lot more complex, you could also import a blueprint. And so instead of like drawing out piece by piece, you would simply take this blueprint and start working through that blueprint. And from there, you could create a 3D model.
And so in addition to that, you can also implement architecture because FreeCAD allows you to basically build, design, and model. So we also have an example of architecture that you can use.
So this is also something that I made. Obviously, it's not too complex, but it's like a simple housing project. You know, when I was making this, I said, oh, maybe it's like a little storage room. Of course, maybe a driveway area, 2 rooms, free space, make like a living room or a kitchen or something. But obviously, this is just a simple example of like how you could implement the software.
And in addition to that, FreeCAD can also be a popular tool in order to educate, as concepts such as geometry, physics, and simulations can be expressed on FreeCAD. So going back to what Luis said, constraints are applied when you do your models. So as you can see, this model is perfectly constrained, as in every constraint has its own relational operator. Right? We have a width, we have a height, and we have its own dimensions. And so geometry can be expressed in FreeCAD, and so therefore it can be used for educative purposes as well. And in addition to that, if you also have a hobby, you know, you like to do personal design, FreeCAD is perfect for that. For example, if you're a person like me and you get a little too passionate when you're playing Monopoly and you accidentally throw your die under a couch and you can't find it anymore, or let's say your dog eats it, right? you're able to actually design your own die. So FreeCAD can help you out for a lot of purposes. And if you're just a hobbyist out there and you like to design and model, FreeCAD's for you.
Okay, now to wrap it up. So 3D parametrics refers to the use of mathematical equations to create and manipulate three-dimensional shapes in a CAD. And CAD stands for computer-aided design, in case you were wondering.
And parametric modeling is an approach to 3CAD which allows you to capture design intent, and it allows you to use different features which relate objects to one another.
And lastly, FreeCAD is an open source software that allows you to create and design 3D parametric models. And going back to our introduction, if you remember David's story with his goalpost.
So this was my first sketch of what I thought my goalpost was actually going to look like. And so when I actually could implement this using FreeCAD, I actually made a sketch and started to work on it, and eventually I got to an end product. I was able to form my own goalpost, so I will have something to do every Saturday with my brother. So, yeah, thank you guys. Do you guys have any questions?
Good on the questions? Oh, questions? Yes, sir.
How long have you guys been working with the application?
I'd say roughly I'll give it 4 months maybe, in preparation for this, yeah. So not a lot of time.
It's definitely a hard process to get used to constraining, and I think one of the good technique to have to get good with sketching and actually modeling is the use of constraints. As I said, getting good habits of constraining and then modeling allows you to get more efficient with your modeling. So yeah.
You ready? Yeah, it actually does. We don't know how to work it with our experience. We're not that advanced, but it does. Yeah. I don't know how I would explain that to you, but you in the back? Yes, you. Have I what? How long have I been doing this? Oh, that's similar to what he asked. Probably a couple months, 4 months maybe.
Yeah. So you can be a quick learner, as I said. It's not something that is generally difficult. It's more of being consistent because there's times where you have a long night for you to complete a sketch, and it may take a while, but you have to be very consistent to continue to design and not give up. So that's one of the things I've learned from FreeCAD as well.
Yes.
So yeah, that's actually one of the features on FreeCAD. When you're based on my experience, when I was doing the goalpost, I could actually implement aluminum for one of the materials, right? But I didn't really go into how the material would actually change the object itself. But I do know that you can. There's a feature for it as well.
Oh, one thing I also want to throw out: if you're ever designing architecture with this, you could also change the width of your walls, the color of your walls, your window pattern. There's a lot of self-modification that you could do to it. So, yeah. Does it handle soft materials?
Like fabrics? As far as I know, with the experience I have on FreeCAD, it does not. But I'm sure there's a wiki page, right, on FreeCAD that allows you to search all the different materials that they do handle. So once you do upload or install FreeCAD, then you're able to actually go on that wiki page and figure all that type of stuff out. Well, as my brother was telling me, as an aerospace engineer, SolidWorks has different features, right? They both pretty much serve the same purpose, but the thing that's cool about FreeCAD is obviously it's open source, right? So it's free, right? Compared to SolidWorks that you must pay for it. So I think that's the biggest difference, but in general, it does the job, If you want to model, sketch, whatever, you're able to do so with FreeCAD, so.
I don't know if everyone heard her question, but she asked, how does it compare to other softwares? I've heard that it it has a lot of similarities. Like if you're using like Fusion 360 or SolidWorks, it's quickly, I mean, it's fairly easy to like learn quickly. So I'd say like in like a working sense, it should be like easy to handle. Any more questions? Yes? That's a good question.
Well, personally, in my experience, it's being able to actually express your creativity because, you know, drawing sketches limits you to only so far, you know? So being able to actually use FreeCAD to actually 3D design, print, and also, you know, be able to actually manifest what you're thinking is what ultimately led us to, you know, discover what this actually, how this works and what you can do with it. So that was my motivation.
That's a great answer. Any other questions? Okay, I think we're good.
No, one last follow-up.
Oh, okay.
When you're done with your design, can you actually send it to us?
Of course.
Yes. I'm going to show you how. Okay. So let's say you have your design. You want to 3D print it now. So what you would do, you select File. I do want to state that every file that's done with this software is your own file, so you don't send it to like a cloud or anything. It's your file. So what you want to do, click Export. Oh, sorry. You got to click your body to make sure like that the software knows that that's what you want to export. So we're going to click Export. It's loading. And when you save it, you want to save it as an STL mesh because that's what 3D printers receive. So that answers your question?
Yeah.
Nice.
So, and also, you can also have these filed as PDFs, which is a good feature that FreeCAD has, which basically provides you the dimensions of your model, and it's easy to share. So you also can use the PDF feature from FreeCAD.
More questions? Good? Okay, everyone, thank you.
Thank you, guys.